This is the message that we heard from him and proclaim to you, that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. 1 John 1:5. On this episode, I want to take a few minutes and make us think about this question: why does God hate sin? Hey, welcome to Grace Ops. So today we're looking at the question, why does God hate sin? I mean, we know he hates sin, but why? Why does God hate sin? I want to kind of break into this a little bit today, get our minds around understanding the reasoning why he hates sin so much. And the first point I want to make is that God hates sin because it contradicts his very nature. God is holy, God is pure, and sin is the exact opposite of who he is. Evil is the exact opposite of who God actually is. So that's the first thing for us to think about. He's holy, sin is unholy. It's that simple. That helps us get our mind a little bit around it. The second reason I want to throw out there why God hates sin is because it destroys our relationship with him. It disconnects us from his presence. He can't dwell with sin, and when we sin, it breaks something. It breaks relationship. It keeps God from us as his sons and daughters. Think about this. When Adam sinned in the garden, Adam and Eve sinned, and God goes to find them after they had sewn fig leaves and had gotten themselves covered back up. They realized for the first time they were naked, and it would have been way better for Adam to just show up before God's presence naked and authentic and vulnerable, and been like, hey, God, I'm sorry I sinned against you. But instead, Adam does something that a lot of us do with sin. He's like, well, you put that woman in my life. So he's kind of blaming God. Well, this woman made me do it, right? So he's blaming the woman. Well, the serpent, right? So, and God asked one question that he's asking all of us pertaining to sin. God, even though they sin, goes looking for them in the garden. And he's asking them the question, where are you? And God already knows the answer to that question. And he wants to ask you that question. He's asking me that question even now. Where are you, Brian? Where's your heart? Where are you with me? How are we doing? God's always going after our hearts. So sin corrupts our relationship with God. It actually breaks fellowship. And God is always looking for us, always wanting to know where we are with him, wanting us to respond in a biblical way, to restore that which was broken. Understanding the why he hates these things. He hates sin because it destroys fellowship. Wow. John 8:34 says, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. Sin corrupts, it enslaves, and it leads to death. So the third reason is that God hates sin because it literally destroys people's lives. Destroys. It's a destructive force in the world. Why does the father say to the child, don't go out and play by the road? Well, he's not being a jerk. He's not saying don't go have fun. He's saying don't go by the road because he knows other consequences that may happen. And God gives us boundary lines. He's set boundary lines on how we should live. And if we're in his kingdom, walking in his salvation, he expects us to be holy, to walk as he walks. He expects us to not be drawn to the practicing of sinful ways. He wants us to be in fellowship with him. So sin destroys people. That's all it does. Sin could be fun for a season, right? But it's destructive and it offers us nothing. All it does is break us. We were never designed as human beings to thrive, to allow our desires to lead us to sinful places, sinful practices. So we want to understand God hates the sin. not the person, but he hates the sinful ways because he knows that it's destroying the soul. It's breaking down the very fabric of who he created that person to be. Sin destroys communities. Sin spreads beyond just an individual. It goes into our families. It brings corruption. It goes into nations and cultures. And Galatians 5:9 says, a little yeast works through the whole batch of dough. That's how sin is. It works through culture and relationships and the framework of how we think and act and the things that we believe about ourselves. And Proverbs 14:34 says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. God hates sin because it destroys communities, destroys cultures, destroys nations. I think about church culture. Oh, how God hates sin that lives among the community. I think of the Proverbs 6 that says how he hates it when brothers sow discord, when you sow discord about the brothers, when you're sowing negative thoughts and lies or deceit, how that's such a destructive form of sin that unfortunately people engage in. Unfortunately, we all have at different times, but he wants us to mature. He wants us to grow. God essentially wants us to view sin the way he views sin. He wants us to mature out of those ways and to grow in what a holy biblical lifestyle is supposed to be. Yes, authentic. Yes, we all fall short. Yes, we still make mistakes. Yeah, Jesus said the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak, and we all understand that. But God never, anywhere in the Bible, does he ever give us reason to stay the victim. Never does he give us the reason to live in sin. It's quite the opposite. He calls us out of those things because he's equipped us exactly to do just that, to overcome sin, to self-govern the desires, to understand the power of healing our hearts with the power of his love. God's grace doesn't excuse sin. It empowers us to overcome it. I think a powerful way to overcome sinful desires is to live sober-minded. He calls us to live in resurrection. I was having a call this week or a text message thread with one of my friends, and it was like resurrection kind of resurfaced in my life when he was so passionate about it. And I've been thinking about it, and it's a solution to sinful ways. Not to think about sin all the time and how can I overcome this or stop doing that, but rather, how is the power of his resurrection functioning in my life, in my heart, right now, in this moment? That's how we overcome. We focus on the holy. We focus on his power, not our ability to stop something. God hates sin because he loves us. He knows that sin destroys everything he means to be good. Our relationship with him, our relationship with each other, and our destiny, our purposes, why we breathe air, how we advance his kingdom through the work of our hands, partnering with him in the Great Commission. So today, ask God, ask yourself, evaluate your own heart, examine yourself. Am I allowing sin to flourish? Am I allowing sinful ways to exist? Am I allowing myself to be carnal in any way, shape, or form? Am I justifying things? Am I sowing fig leaves like Adam did? Am I blame shifting? Like, well, I'm doing this because some other person's doing that. Evaluate yourself and then come out of it and focus on obedience, focus on his power, focus on his why. I think knowing why he hates sin helps motivate me towards holiness. He puts the boundary lines in my life for a reason. He gives me self-control for a reason. So go engage at that level with God this week. Thanks for joining us in Grace Ops.